Hello and welcome to Become the Teapot. I'm Iain.
And so am I. This week in our ongoing effort to get Iain to read more comics, we're going to be watching the 2009 film Whiteout.
I've never heard of it.
Me neither.
So, why are we watching it?
Because I saw it on a list of comic book adaptations and I had never heard of it.
That's rare for you.
It is. And it's based on a comic by Greg Rucka and Steve Lieber, the follow-up to which won an Eisner Award. So my interest was piqued.
Well, now mine is too.
Hopefully we still feel the same later. Got a pun you want to throw in before we get started?
Snow, I don't.
Brilliant. So, Whiteout from 2009. What were your thoughts on this film?
Well, first of all, as this topic is like a tundra murder mystery, I think we should try not to spoil who the killer is.
Okay, sounds good.
If people out there care.
Yeah.
I don't know if they do, but that's their opinion.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine that people would care enough about this film, but we will avoid saying who the killer was, ultimately. But we will discuss other plot elements. So anyway, What were your thoughts on the film?
I kind of enjoyed it.
Really?
The elements to it that I enjoyed, like little bits of it,
Okay.
even though it was very, very slow. The clues and the twists and turns, if I can call them twists, were a little bit too long. And it felt like a made-for-TV film.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it's not the worst film in the world, but it's down there.
It's close to, I would say.
Yeah.
No, I've definitely seen worse films, but I just found the whole thing just really tedious. Like, incompetent from start to finish. And the premise, which is obviously from the comic book, is quite an interesting idea. It's, the first murder in the most inhospitable place on the planet. Good idea. You could build a lot of stuff from that, but this film doesn't.
No. It's one of those things, we've spoken about this before, about the comic having issues and the film having issues. If you put them together, you get something good.
Yeah. The comic's got 4 issues, hasn't it?
Aha. Clever. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, I can't put my finger on it, but it's just not that good.
I could put my finger on it. Right, okay.
Go on then.
All right. First of all, don't introduce your female protagonist with an extended shot of her undressing and then having a shower scene.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Not the best way to start. Here's your strong central protagonist.
That's just fan service for people who like Kate.
Kate Beckinsale.
There you go, thank you.
Yeah. Second of all, if the comic you're basing the film on actually happens to pass the Bechdel test, e.g. has 2 central strong women protagonists, don't replace one of them with a generic handsome American guy.
Yeah.
And say, right, we're going to get rid of that central dynamic and put in a fucking Gabriel Macht from The Spirit and Suits.
Oh, The Spirit. I forgot about that. I know him from Suits.
Everyone did.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I mean, that's the second of all. Third, don't then remove all edge from the central character, Kate Beckinsale's character, and just make her into this really generic personality void of a human. She's gone from kind of like we saw with the old guy, drinking, smoking, self-destructive behaviour, to basically just Kate Beckinsale but American.
Exactly.
That's her entire personality. It feels exactly like someone went, this central character, I feel like she should just smile a bit more and be a bit happier, because men don't like to see a woman be all grumpy and gruff. So let's just make her a bit normal. And then lastly, and probably most importantly, don't treat your audience like they have the brain capacity of an amoeba. We don't need constant slow motion flashbacks to things we had already seen 2 or 3 times. We don't need the characters to then narrate what's going on in those scenes. We don't need to have a different character tell us the same information again and show the same flashback again. How many times did we see that bloody plane crash at the beginning? We don't need extreme close-ups of important things to prompt us to remember them. And then we also don't need a slow motion of that item so we really, really remember them. It was just absolute rubbish.
I'm wondering what has more slow-mo, this film or a Zack Snyder film. It's probably quite close.
It's close, but, the Zack Snyder film would be twice as long. Yeah, I mean, speaking of it, this is an hour and 40 minutes long.
Yeah.
It felt longer, and it didn't need to be an hour and 40 minutes. It had that big climax towards the end, in the snow with the guidelines, and then it just drops back to a snail's pace for the last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
This could have been a really good murder mystery with the paranoia and isolation of something like John Carpenter's The Thing. Mm-hmm. I would have probably taken 30 Days of Night, which we covered a few weeks ago. If it had that vibe, I would have been happier. Mm-hmm. But it was just rubbish.
I was looking forward to the portrayal or the on-screen portrayal of Carrie and who's the other one? Is it Sharp?
Yeah, Lily Sharp.
Yeah, so I was looking forward to that. And as you said, they've just gone, right, let's take her out and put in this handsome guy.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
But like all of Sharp's story points, they just use the pilot, Delphi, and Pierce, which is the handsome guy.
Gabriel Macht.
Yeah, so they've taken out one character, they've made up a new character, but then also the pilot takes some of her roles anyway.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
It's just infinitely less interesting.
The chemistry of those three kind of works. There's a couple of scenes in it that I do like. Those three together, yeah, all right, fair enough. But if you're going to introduce that character in a Price, I would still leave in Sharp. Maybe have, like, Price as her boss or something, I don't know. But keep in Sharp.
But I don't understand why they did that in the first place. I mean, apart from because they wanted a central male protagonist rather than having two female protagonists. That's the only reason I can see to substitute that. Mm-hmm. And I think in the comic book, obviously, she is British.
Yep.
And she is, again, a sort of member of a British organisation, a spy organisation. In this, they made him a UN representative, didn't they? A UN agent. But in the comic, she's sort of a cagey, secretive type. And, the gun that they get hold of is an illegal arm that she shouldn't have because you're not meant to have guns in the Arctic. Whereas in the film, it's just Carrie's got a gun because, of course, you need a gun in a location where no one ever commits crime. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous you need a marshal out there as well, but it's like, okay, we got a marshal. Right, what for? Well, all those crimes that are committed out here. I suppose it was only, it's no one ever commits murder, wasn't it? Not necessarily no one ever commits crime, so.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like, same in the doc. I know he's the base doctor, but he says, all he's been doing is curing hangovers and
frostbite,
headaches and whatever. Yeah, and frostbite. But that's it.
Yeah.
Doesn't quite make sense.
That's the least of this film's problems. I just think it's a real missed opportunity to not have that buddy cop dynamic with a little sexual frisson, which you have in the comic. You have a relationship between two characters in the comic that is at first antagonistic and then a begrudging trust and reliance. The same thing you've seen in lots of buddy cop movies, but rarely with two female characters. So it would have been good to see. Instead, they just replaced it with a really, again, personality. I mean, in fact, I didn't think many of the characters had any personality anyway. The script was clunky. They just all said random one-liners from time to time. The person with the most personality was that drunken Australian guy.
Do you think that they thought being cold is a personality trait? There we go. I'm cold. That's his personality.
Yeah, I think that's it. You've got cold UN agent, cold marshal, cold pilot, cold doctor. The big characters.
There were a couple of things that, saying would being too kind, but that they changed from the comic. So with Carrie, after she kills her partner or something, she chooses to go, right, I'm off to the ice. I need to...
Yes, she does.
I need to be punished. So I'm going to take myself away and go here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas in the comic, she's just sort of sent there.
Yes.
So I like that idea that it's her personal choice that she has to be punished for what she's done.
But how much did they whitewash that storyline? Because obviously in the comic book, it is a criminal who attempts to rape her, so she kills him. After she's disarmed him and he's sort of on the floor, she then breaks his neck.
Yeah.
Whereas in the film, they make it her partner who's about to draw his gun, and then she shoots him in self-defense.
And then he goes flying out a window.
Yeah, he went absolutely flying in that awful CGI. But it takes any of the, the grey areas out of that character. It takes, the thing that she did was at a moment of rage following a traumatic event that it was not the right thing to do, which is why she was being punished. Mm-hmm. In the film, it's like, well, why do you need to be punished for that? Like, he was about to draw his gun.
Yeah.
So it was self-defense. So it's, again, whitewashing this character, making her whiter than white, and as such, making her much less interesting than the character you get in the comic book.
Okay, well, I like okay, I now don't like the change in the past, but I like the idea that she's chosen to punish herself rather than just being told to leave.
Yeah, but you could do that if she, you could keep the storyline in the hotel the same and still have her making amends after all, or self-flagellation, punishing herself. I think that cinema audiences or studios are very worried that cinema audiences will be put off by a character doing something that they perceive as bad. The characters have to be good for you to want to support them. But that's, not true, is it? People will follow an unlikable protagonist as long as they're not absolute dickhead. And even then. Anyway, what else did you like about changes from the comic?
I don't want to sort of spoil too much if people care about this film or comic, but the plot points, so there were changes in the plot ever so slightly, but enough so when the film was almost coming to the end, I was thinking, will that character do the same thing in the film as the book?
Yeah.
Because there was plot points taken out that didn't sort of show that this would happen. So I was sort of questioning where it would go.
Yeah, like the whole plane.
Yeah.
The whole Russian plane, which is the first scene, is an invention for the film. It's not in the comic.
Yeah. And then when it did end up a very, very similar way, I was like, oh, okay, so they did do it, but worse. It was done worse in a way.
Yeah. And they sort of restructured things as well. So they had the Whiteout of the film's name happened at the end of the film rather than about, I think it's the end of the first chapter in the comic, isn't it? The Whiteout hits. So that changes the dynamic. It creates it as a more of a sort of a Chekhov's gun thing where it's coming at some point rather than being a propelling force of the plot. It's the culmination. I think that was okay. That worked well enough, but I mean, it was a bit redundant, a bit pointless. But it's just, I think, to make the ending a bit more action-driven. I think it was all they needed to do that for.
I would say those two bits are probably the bits that I liked.
Okay.
In regards to changes.
Yeah.
I mean, I also did like the plane scene when the three of them were trapped. It was quite clever how they got out.
Yeah, they blew up the
escape hatch.
Yeah.
Thing.
The escape hatch, whatever it was. And he says a cheesy one-liner before that as well. I can't remember what he says, but it's just like, boom goes the dynamite, or something like that.
Boom, boom, baby. Boom, boom.
Yeah.
Well, actually, there was a bit I did find funny, but I don't think it was meant to be funny, is when they get back in the car and the pilot guy takes some takes some vodka.
Yeah.
And the handsome guy, Pierce or Price, whatever his name is, he goes, you don't want to drink that because that's going to bring your core temperature down or something. And then literally, a split second later, he's like, oh yeah, all right, I am quite thirsty.
Yeah.
And they all have a little cheers.
They have a little cheers. They have a lovely time they've escaped death.
Ha ha ha. We've escaped death. Screw you, death.
Yeah. I didn't enjoy the film. I only watched it about an hour ago, I will say. I just literally, I think that's probably why I'm a little more down on it. I haven't actually had any time to mellow on it. So I've literally finished watching it, gone tediously boring. And then now I've got to go talk about it.
You don't have to.
All right. Well, in that case, should we move on to the comic then?
Sit here in silence for 20 minutes. But yeah, let's just go on to the comic then, shall we?
Sounds good. Okay, so this is Whiteout by Greg Rucka and Steve Lieber.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you've not read this before either, have you?
No, I haven't. As I said during our Old Guard episode, I have read a bit of Rucka before. Mm-hmm. I really liked what he did for Gotham Central, for instance, but I bounced off the Old Guard. I think we both did, actually, didn't we? We both read that and just thought it was a bit forgettable. Mm-hmm. And so I sort of went into Whiteout not really knowing what to expect. And I gotta say, I found myself enjoying it. I whipped through the 4 issues in 2 sittings. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think I bounced off it again.
Oh, really?
I don't know why. I mean, it's a really good premise. I think I'm the same as you in a way that when I finished the comic, like you've just finished the film, I came away thinking, oh, I hope the film is better than the comic. Because I just put it down.
Yeah.
And then now I've had a few days to think about it. I'm actually like, it wasn't that bad, the comic. I prefer the comic over the film, I think.
Oh, definitely.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a very, I don't know. I bounced off it a fair bit. I can't put my finger on it, like with the film, but it didn't entice me.
Okay.
The only sort of murder mystery comic that we've read so far is The Long Halloween.
Yeah, that's right.
So I found that a hell of a lot more fun to read than this.
Yeah.
I think because I'm more invested in the DC world when this is a brand new world.
No, that's fair. And this is only 4 issues, so it does feel quite light as far as things go. I genuinely think the comic did a better job of getting me on side with the main character than the Old Guard did. Mm-hmm. Like you say, you go into Batman knowing the characters and knowing what's going to happen. You see all your favourites crop up at one point or another during that comic.
Yep.
You know, it's a nice read, and you've already got a foothold in that universe, so you know what to expect. Mm-hmm. This, I didn't know what to expect, and I've got to say, perhaps because it was a central protagonist rather than a group like the Old Guard, but I think it did a good job of showing her as fallible and vulnerable, but also, obviously, she had all this pressure from her peers and from her employer, so it gave you an underdog sensibility to that character. I think perhaps a little bit heavy-handed at times with smoking, drinking, swearing right off the bat, just to really hammer home that this is a sort of coarse, rough character. But once that calmed down and it tapped into the USP of the comic, really, which is, as I said before, a murder mystery in the most inhospitable place on the planet, I really enjoyed that idea. And I liked the back and forth, as I said, between Carrie and Lily a lot. The two central buddy cop dynamic, a little bit antagonistic. You've got Lily, who's tall and blonde and British and well put together, and you've got Carrie, who's rough around the edges.
Yeah.
This sort of odd couple dynamic. All of that was quite good. As I say, it's not my favourite comic I've ever read, but it was very enjoyable. 2 sittings, half an hour, 45 minutes each sitting. I whizzed through it. It kept me going. Yeah.
Well, comparing it to the Old Guard then, I think Greg can write a good, strong female lead. And in this, he's kind of got 2.
Yeah.
I mean, with Carrie, in the comic especially, she turns up and then she's not even been there a day or 2 and the first guy is killed. So she doesn't know these characters. She's not been there a long time. So it's definitely established that she's this lone wolf, I'm in charge, kind of, don't talk to me kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of sexism towards her.
Yes.
But she's like, fuck off, I don't care. Leave me alone. Oh, and also she's got her boss who's going, you better solve this murder or I'll have your badge or something.
Yeah, like typical 80s cop movie dynamic. Is that? Yeah.
I really wanted her to say, I'm too old for this shit. She didn't.
She didn't, because she wasn't that old.
Well, yeah. I'm too cold for this shit.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that one, isn't it?
There we go. Well done.
But yeah, I came away from the comic thinking, wasn't that good. And then with hindsight, with the film, I think the comic is actually all right.
It's certainly better, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think where the comic really excels, though, is not necessarily in Rucka's writing, but actually in Lieber's art. I think that is where the comic excels. It's a black and white comic, which I don't think we've really done before. Maybe Scott Pilgrim you read in black and white, didn't you? So
yeah,
but yeah, black and white comic, but that allows some really cool visual techniques. The scenes inside, set in bases and things like that, had a lot of line work, but then when the characters go outside, they really use those whites to full effect. And at times the characters were almost drowning in the sort of starkness of the Antarctic, all of this white around them. And it was a really clever way of demonstrating the ever-present danger of the cold.
Yeah.
Rather than the film, which just had the wind get louder every time they wanted to demonstrate it was colder.
Oh, it's windy. I think in the comic especially, the Antarctic, or the snow, if you will, is a character.
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas in the film, it's just like, it's cold and snowy.
Essentially, you never really feel much of a threat, even when she loses her fingers. Early in the comic book, I think about halfway in the film. But yeah, in the film, you don't really feel the threat of the cold. In the end of the first issue, where her guideline is cut and she gets lost, and then you just get more and more white on the page and less line work. And it's a really good demonstration of how daunting that can be. I also think Steve Lieber's action scenes were really good. Obviously, it's not big superheroics, but there is a bit of, taking down a couple of perps and things like that. And it's really fluid, action to action, twisting a wrist, bending an arm, kicking the knee. And it shows each of these things. And it's really good sequential storyline. There's a flow there. You can tell the sequence of events really clearly, and it goes like, you whiz through it like it is in motion. Yeah, no, I think that was really good as well.
Would you think that if this was in colour, it wouldn't be as enticing as in the artwork?
I don't think it would work as well. No, I don't. I think the black and white is a key thing because of where it's set and the use of those whites. I think that is such a key thing for this comic book. I don't think it would work in colour.
Well, I didn't think about Scott Pilgrim when I was reading it, but yeah, that's the only black and white thing that we've read, I'm pretty sure, or that I've read.
I think so. We read Persepolis as well, which you weren't here for.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and Sin City.
Oh, yeah, of course. There was a joke, I think it was a joke, in the comic because someone says, I think she's asking someone if she likes her hair or she comments on the colour of her hair. And I thought, haha, it's in black and white. We don't know what the colour is.
That's Scott Pilgrim, isn't it? Yeah.
No, that happens in this.
Oh, did it?
There's one panel or something that says something about my hair or the colour of something.
Oh.
And I thought about Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
Because you showed me the two comparative scenes in black and white and in colour.
Yeah.
And I think that was the only point of the comic that I laughed. But I don't think I was supposed to.
I think there was a few chuckles there, but not in the same way as I don't know what I'm saying, not in the same way as the film. But I didn't laugh once during that film. I was mostly just bored. So
Yeah, I think I laughed at the start when the Russian pilots, or I assume they were both from Russia.
Yeah, they were Russian.
The co-pilot failed horribly at killing his friends or his comrades.
How bad was it? All he had to do was draw his gun and shoot the two people, but instead he drops the bottle of whiskey or vodka or whatever it is, bumbles around a bit. It's like, what are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I think, like we said before, it's a good premise. There are bits in the comic that didn't find it enticing enough, like I said, but if you kind of merge the film and the comic, you get a good idea. It's kind of like The Old Guard in a way.
I don't see what merging anything of this film into the comic would do to improve it, really. That's my problem there. I think the comic works on its own as a, as I say, it's only 4 issues long, so it is relatively lightweight. It's nothing to get invested in overly, but I fail to see what the film brings to the storyline that the comic doesn't do better.
Yeah.
Merging them, maybe apart from the Whiteout, moving that towards the end of the film. But I think actually having it at the end of the first issue is really effective as well. So, especially if you were reading this week to week, having that be a big finishing point to the first issue would be good.
A character that I did enjoy in the comic that I didn't know that I enjoyed until I watched the film was Keller.
Yes.
The first person that dies.
Yeah.
That's not in the film. And like we said, don't want to spoil too much of the plot, but that's quite an interesting plot point in the comic.
Yes.
So I was looking forward to seeing that in the film, but that was just entirely cut and merged with other deaths.
Yeah. A lot of the actual murder mystery was... I mean, again, the comic starts with the murder, doesn't it? You start with the body in the snow, and then it unravels from there. There's about 10 minutes building up to it in the film. And then it's just her going from place to place. Someone gets murdered in front of her. And then she happens to catch him on the last one. Someone gets murdered in front of him and she knocks him out with a shovel. It's like, well, that's brilliant detective work there, Carrie. It's such a I just happen to keep going to these places and people get killed in front of me, rather than her being an effective detective.
Effective detective. I love that.
And I liked, as I say, the Carrie and Lily working together and things like that. I liked that in the comic much more than the film. And as I say, the film... I mean, it's just really badly directed and written as well, so that really didn't help. I've got nothing good to say about that film now I think about it. Nothing. Anyway, you got any Easter eggs?
We'll find out.
Iain's egg hunt. Iain's egg hunt. Iain's egg hunt.
I'm not yoking you. So welcome to my non-Easter egg section.
Okay, yeah, I did think this might happen. Yeah, Stan Lee didn't crop up, did he? So there's...
But to be fair, I probably wouldn't have seen him because there was too much snow.
Maybe that's why it's you're on an Easter egg hunt, but they're too buried in the snow.
Something that I did see is that in the party scene, someone is playing Wipeout, the song, on the guitar. And if you use your imagination and think really, really hard, Wipeout sounds very similar to Whiteout.
Yeah, I think it's the out part.
And the W at the start.
No, that is true. Someone did play Wipeout, almost like they forgot the name of the film.
I've got a couple of more things to say, I guess, that aren't Easter eggs.
Yeah, I mean, if they're all of that caliber, then yeah, absolutely, go ahead, fill your boots.
So when Carrie and Price are interrogating Haddon, Carrie grabs a pair of scissors to try to cut off his fingers or something.
Yeah, it was extreme, wasn't it?
However, if you look at her hand, you can clearly see she's got all her fingers. And this scene is after she had 2 of them
removed.
Frostbitten. You know what I mean?
Frostbitten. Yeah. So that's just a continuity error,
Yeah.
or lack of any care and attention, which would explain a lot.
Yeah.
And what's your third one?
Before Kate Beckinsale was attached to the project, Reese Witherspoon was cast as the lead.
Okay.
So I don't know if they were going to change the plot again. I'd like with the comic and put her as Sharp because of the blonde hair. I don't know. But
Probably not, just diarrhea.
Apparently she was the lead, so I assume she was Carrie.
I guess so, yeah. Well, there's no other female lead. Literally, she doesn't talk. There's not another female in this film, apart from like in the background extras at a party scene.
Yeah, the background party scenes
Yeah.
and stuff. And then my final non-egg is the screenwriter, Alex Stewart, went on a research trip to Barrow, Alaska.
Oh.
As the scientists said, it was the closest location in feel to the Antarctic base.
Gotcha. Right.
Nice little link back to our Halloween episode.
Yeah, it was worth it, wasn't it, for that peak script he came up with. It was worth going out there.
That on point.
Feeling the cold.
On point script.
Should we wrap things up?
Yeah.
Okay. What did you think of the film and the comic?
Well, the film wasn't terrible. Very close to being terrible. I didn't feel like it was a waste of my time, but it almost was. Yeah, it's one of those films that you go,
Yeah.
At least it wasn't 2 hours long.
No, I mean, I think the film was absolutely rubbish. I think it was incompetently made tedium that treats its audience like idiots. And I think it's one of the examples when we're talking about comic to film transition that is actively worse because of the adaptation. And changes to the comic source have made it from a comic that had 2 strong female protagonists and has turned it into a generic box-ticking, cookie-cutter thriller without any thrills whatsoever. Whereas the comic, as I said, was pretty enjoyable. Short, but good in premise and well executed.
Yeah.
But you didn't like the comic as much.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It wasn't my kind of thing. I mean, I would say it's above average for me. It's,
Okay.
It didn't really entice me, like I said. I get the idea of it, but I can't see why it got awards, personally. I don't know why that happened.
I'll have to check, actually. It may have been the art, but I think it was Best Limited Series.
Right.
But I think that it was nominated on this one, the second one, the follow-up, Whiteout Melt. I think that's the one that actually won some Eisner Awards.
Oh, well, there you go. If I was to say out of 10, we don't normally do this, but maybe sort of 2, 3 for the film, maybe 2 for the film, maybe sort of like 6 for the comic.
Okay. Yeah, I gave the film 1 on Letterboxd, I'll be honest. But that literally was just my gut instinct as I walked away. I was like, giving that shit a 1.
I'm surprised you didn't put down 0 because it had no J.K. Simmons cameo. 0 stars, no J.K. Simmons.
That isn't my criteria for a good film. I mean, I like J.K. Simmons. I like a lot of actors. I just felt, like you said, I felt like it had wasted my time more than anything. But that was, I'll be honest, partially why I added this to our list, because I heard it was a very bad film. And as it turns out, it was a very bad film.
You knew that before you watched it.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I'd like to have, as we discovered early on in this podcast, it's not interesting if we both sit here and go, I really like that film. Yeah, me too. Week after week after week, so it's good to have a variety. But what was Kate's opinion of the film? That's what we're all dying to know.
Well, she's got issues with films, how they end.
Okay.
So the first thing that she said after it ended is, oh my God, I like how it ended. I think what she means by that is the fact that it was all finished in a nice little bow.
Right, yeah. Wrapped everything up.
So they caught the person, it all got solved, job done.
Yeah.
It's not like a interpretive ending. It's not a let's leave it open for a sequel.
Are you sure she didn't say, oh my God, I like that it ended?
I'll have to check.
Okay.
No, but she has this thing, well, I think we both do, things like Black Mirror, in a way that they end and you either feel hollow or you don't feel that it was completed.
Right.
I think the ending of it, I think she means it was finished in a nice way.
Yeah.
Even if the film wasn't nice.
There was no room for interpretation with that ending. I'll agree with you there, yeah. And we'll leave it there, I think. For Whiteout, I think we've spent more than enough time discussing this film. Do you have any other business?
Well, since I was so unprepared last episode, I do actually.
You were.
Well, we both were.
You usually plan the any other business, that's all I'll say. This is your job.
Right, so since winter is coming, I thought I'd test your knowledge.
Of Game of Thrones.
No, about cold comic book characters.
Cold. Okay, right, all right.
Very similar to your Spider-Man quiz that you gave me.
Okay.
I'm going to say comic book character names,
Right.
and you've got to tell me if they're real or fake.
Okay.
Okay. And this is called How Much Do You Snow About Comics?
Wow. We are getting our money out of that snow pun, aren't we? Okay, good. Well, I'll let you take it away in a moment, but first, what's the jingle?
It's not really a jingle. It's more of a slogan. And I've taken it from a fantastic...
Do you mean a snogan?
Oh, I like it. And I've taken it from a fantastic film. It's Ice to Meet You.
Brilliant.
There you go.
That's what you're calling it.
No, that's the slogan. That's not the...
That's the slogan.
It has no theme tune. It just has a cold slogan.
Okay. Maybe some sleigh bells or something over the top of that, and we can make it into a theme song.
And I've taken it from a fantastic film. It's Ice to Meet You. 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 How much do you know about comics? Right, so there's no bonus points here.
Okay.
It's just, are these real comic book characters or not? Number one.
And they're all ice-based?
Yes.
Okay.
Number one. It's called Ice.
Ice.
Is there a character called Ice?
There is.
Correct. She is a B-list Justice League character introduced in 1988.
Were the two of them, Fire and Ice, that partnered up? Or am I thinking of Captain Cold and Alpha, whatever? Carry on.
Number two, a real head-scratcher here. He's called Iceman. Is he real or not?
Iceman, that sounds made up. You've just said ice and you've added man to the end of that, but I'll go with true.
Correct.
Okay.
X-Men, 1963.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've had Iceman. Now we've got Ice Woman.
Oh, I've never heard of Ice Woman, so I'm going to say false.
Correct. I made it up.
Imaginative.
Next, we've got Ice Girl.
Ice Girl.
Ice Girl.
True.
Correct. True.
Hey.
In The Exiles, 2003, a Marvel comic.
Oh, right, okay. Because Exiles were the X-Men that used to jump across different dimensions, and they used to meet all different alternative ones, so that may have been a gender-swapped Bobby Drake character, I presume.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm just guessing here.
Number 5 is Ice Maiden.
Ice Maiden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, well done. Super Friends, 1977.
Nice. Okay.
Or
so
Ice.
again, there's another. Again, there's another Iceman link there. Super Friends. Oh no.
Oh no, this is that was DC.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Spider-Man and his amazing friends.
Next one. Killer Frost.
Yes, that one is one.
Yep. First appeared in Firestorm, Volume 1, Issue 3 from 78. Next one is Emma Frost.
Emma Frost is an X-Men character, yes.
Yep, 1980. Next.
That is just her name. She's not really an ice-based power.
You can turn to diamond. Yeah. all right.
Diamonds, yeah.
Never
diamond
mind.
skin.
I didn't say they were ice-powered. I just said
Okay.
Next is Jack Frost.
Well, that is a character. As in, it's a fictional, and I'm sure it would have appeared in some comic books. So, yeah, true.
Yeah, correct. It was in a comic called USA Comics number 1, 1941.
Cool.
Next, which you accidentally stumbled into earlier on in this quiz, is Captain Cold.
Hey. I think that might be a real ice-based superhero. Yes.
Oh, you're wrong, actually.
Supervillain.
There we go. Yeah, he's the leader of the Rogues.
Yeah.
First appeared in 1957.
Woo!
Next is Mr. Freeze.
He is. I'm a big fan of Mr. Freeze in the comics. I like him. Tragic villain.
He actually first appeared in the Batman TV show from the 60s.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's quite cool. Yeah.
Next one is Mr. Zero.
Mr. Zero. Sure.
Yes, correct. That actually was the original name for Mr. Freeze.
Oh, okay.
And he appeared in 1958.
Right.
He was a bit of a daft comic book character.
Yeah.
So then they changed him into Mr. Freeze in the show. And it stuck.
Did they ever bring back Mr. Zero at a later date?
No, I think he just became
Mr. Freeze.
Mr. Freeze,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Next one is Blizzard.
Blizzard. Yeah, Blizzard's a real character.
There are 2 versions of that, actually, and they are both Iron Man bad guys, 63 and 87. Next is Blue Snowman.
Well, I hope it's real, but we haven't had a false one in a while, so I'm going to say false.
Oh, you're wrong.
Am I wrong? Oh, well, I'm glad to be wrong here.
It's someone from a Wonder Woman comic from 1946.
Okay.
It's a female who dresses up as a blue snowman. A bit daft, but
Wow.
comics are.
It's better than a yellow snowman, I suppose.
God. So number 14, Polar Boy.
Polar Boy. No, I'm going to say false.
True.
How many snow-based fish?
He is
What is this?
member of the Legion of Superheroes.
Oh, yeah. Right.
1963, first appeared.
So that had characters like Arm Fall Off Boy and Matter Eater Lad and stuff as well, didn't it? So some weird characters.
I love that you asked me these questions because I have no idea.
Okay, fine.
And number 15, last one, is Bipolar Bear.
Bipolar Bear.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that is a false one. We haven't had a false one in a while.
To be honest, it's a bit of a trick question because you're right in saying he's not in the comics because he's not, but he appeared in the Tick cartoon series from the 90s.
Nice, okay.
But he wasn't in the comics.
Yeah, because they have made the Tick comic books, but presumably he never transitioned over to those.
There you go.
Again, I'm asking you questions you don't know.
No, pass.
Well, thank you very much.
Well
for that.
done.
That was very nice.
You got most of them right. I didn't keep track.
Yeah, I went a bit wrong towards the end there, but no, thank you for that. Thank you for your diligent research of all of the ice-based powers characters you can find. Yeah, amazing.
Just before we wrap up, I was wondering if you could give us a spoiler-free review of Dune. Because last episode you said that you were off to see it.
No, last episode I said I had watched it, and I gave a review of it at the time.
Well, I clearly wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, no, I said I really enjoyed it. It was very epic in scope and scale, but for me it felt a bit incomplete in a way that the best of part ones don't. So like Lord of the Rings and things. But I'm literally repeating verbatim what I said last episode. So
wow.
But I tell you what, I am off to see Eternals tonight, not the Eternals, Eternals, and I will give you a spoiler-free review of that one next time, which will be our episode on Shazam.
Damn.
Spoiler for the end of the outro. So, yeah, I will talk about that, at which point it would have been out for about 4 weeks anyway, and everyone would have already talked about it. But still, I'll do that.
Cool.
Right, sounds good. Well, I think that's all for this week. Thank you all very much for listening. If you enjoyed Whiteout, then why not pick up the sequel, Whiteout Melt, or Rucka's other works, Queen and Country or Gotham Central. You can also check out our episode on The Old Guard to hear our thoughts about that one. If you want to get in touch with us, you can tweet us at becometheteapot or email us at becometheteapot@hotmail.com. We can also be found on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Reddit, or in an Antarctic research base dedicated solely to the study of comic book movies. Make sure you subscribe, or we might cut the guideline on you. Next episode, after a slightly longer time away than intended, we're going back to our comfort zone of superpowers and waffle cone printed spandex. We're going to be watching the 2019 film Shazam! And comparing it to the New 52 revised origins for the character in the comic by Iain's newly discovered favourite writer, Jeff Johns.
Yes! Can't wait.
Done. Hit start.